Well, good morning, class, or good afternoon, whichever the case may be when you're viewing this. Um, it's Saturday morning now for me. It's nice and quiet here, and I'm able to sit down and really help you focus on some of the main objectives of Chapter 1. Essentially, what Chapter 1 does is it gives you kind of an overview of everything in the course and what um, Dessler is trying to accomplish in this first course. In this first chapter. But again, it gives you the overview of everything. So here we go. The first thing that he's trying to identify essentially is get you to relate to is what is HR management. Essentially, HR management is a management process that involves the four following functions. And that would be planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. And you're going to say, oh my God, that is what I learned in Management 101, Principles of Management. But this is about the people part of all of that. The people are personnel aspects, that is, of management jobs involve conducting a job analysis, planning labor needs, and also recruiting job candidates. You know, one of the toughest things to do really is to select the right job candidates. I know here at Curry I was recently on a couple of search committees for some higher and lower profile jobs. And the thing is that choosing the right candidate is very, very difficult because everybody that you interview has their own strengths and weaknesses, if you will. Some stronger in some areas than others, and it's kind of like, well, if I were able to get all of the attributes that we are looking for in all the different candidates, I would have my ideal candidate. But the thing is, the real world doesn't work like that. You kind of have to make a decision based on all the wonderful candidates and who really has more of what you need. So when we select the right job candidates, we're looking at orienting and training them, after we've brought them on board. We're looking at managing wages and salaries. We're looking at providing incentives and benefits, and most importantly, appraising performance. Training is one of the first things that go into a budget and one of the first things that come out. Why? Because a lot of employers, they don't really see immediate gratification or return on investment with employees, especially with the higher profile jobs. They think that training really is a liability on the balance sheet, but in reality, as an economist, I look at it as an investment. It's a return on investment. The more you train, the more you develop, the better off your employees are, the better they come out. So you want to, not only that, when you invest in their training, they're also investing in you, meaning that they're going to perform harder because you're taking a personal knowledge in them and they become more knowledgeable. We're also looking for employee commitment too. We want employees who are very strong in understanding affirmative action, health and safety. But when we look at human resource management in and of itself, we're looking at the glue or the conduit that holds everything together. Granted, a lot of the HR functions are now absorbed by line managers, but still, you need that strong core of HR people that are very knowledgeable about equal employment opportunity, affirmative action, employee health and safety, handling grievances, and so on. If you're unionized, you want them to know about labor relations. So why is HR management important to all managers? Managers don't want to make mistakes without managing, such as hiring the wrong person, or having their company taken to court because of discriminatory actions, or, if you will, committing unfair labor practices. As a manager, anywhere in the organization, you'll have to improve performance. You have to make employees more efficient. You have to spend more time, if you are an HR manager, on becoming an entrepreneur and require basic and some advanced knowledgeable skills in HR. So we also want to look at the line and staff aspects of HR. And although most firms have an HR department with its own HR manager, smaller companies and some institutions, all managers tend to get involved in activities like recruiting, interviewing, selecting, and training. Now, there are two types of authority. There's line authority and there's staff authority. But authority in itself is the right to make decisions, to direct the work of others and to give orders, so to speak. But a good line manager in the 21st century is going to facilitate. They're going to bring out the best in people. Granted, line managers are authorized to direct the work of subordinates on the managerial grid. That's very true. But their subordinates are generally involved in work that to direct the they are involved in work rather that directly produces or sells the company's product or service. It is their branding, if you will. It's what the company stands for, such as in sales and manufacturing. Now, if we look at staff managers, they're going to be authorized to assist and advise line managers, if you will, sometimes considered middle managers, in accomplishing their day-to-day or their basic goals. The subordinates of staff managers are generally involved in work that support the products or services, such as purchasing or QC, quality control. HR managers are generally staff managers. So here again, we talk about going from line to staff. Managers may move back and forth from line to staff positions over the course of their careers, but line to staff HR cooperation is essentially important because HR and line managers are going to, for the most part, to share responsibilities for HR activities. So let's talk a little bit about line managers' HR responsibilities. All supervisors are responsible for aspects of HR personnel, such as placement, training, and development of employees. The HR department provides specialized assistance, such as acting as a recruiter. They usually have, like here at Curry, we have a Title IX officer, we have an EEO representative, we have job analysts, we have compensation managers, training specialists, and a labor relations specialist. The trends shaping HR today are really important. Here we're talking about 21st century HR. So HR responsibilities have become broader and strategic over time in response to a number of different trends going on. The role of HR has evolved from primarily being just responsible for hiring, firing, payroll, benefits, blah, 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 to a more strategic role. And this course is really going to focus on strategic HR management. That means we're going to be looking at strategically or partnering, if you will, with the organizational mission. The powers to be have this sometimes 5 to 10 year plan if it's a large company, and some may be smaller, but strategically, where and what place do they want to be 5 to 10 years from now? As well as playing an HR as a counselor, a coach, if you will. HR department plays an advisory role to the organization in areas of, if they're unionized, labor relations, even if they're not unionized, you get involved with the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, and, importantly, legal compliance. Big thing we're going to talk about is workforce diversity. The labor force is getting older, as you probably know. There are more baby boomers that are still working, who are sandwiched between generations. But the aging labor force represents significant changes in terms of potential labor shortages down the road. And many firms are now instituting new policies that are aimed at encouraging aging employees to stay on, offering their skills and expertise if they could still work, and maybe even attracting previously retired employees. Growing numbers of workers with elder care responsibilities and high rates of immigration are also present challenges and opportunities for HR. With projected workforce shortfalls, as I just talked about, many employers are hiring foreign workers to do U.S. jobs. Technology facilitates alternative work arrangements, contributing to a workforce of people who hold multiple jobs, temporary employees, even leasing employees, we could talk about that, or contract labor people. Now, let's talk a little bit about technology and workforce trends. Technological changes are going to continue to shift growth and employment opportunities in different occupations. We have service jobs, and what about service jobs? They comprise more than 2/3 of the U.S. workforce, which is producing and delivering services as opposed to products, because as you know, a lot of our products are outsourced. Human capital. Not just looking at people, employees as human resources, but as human capital. And that is going to refer to the knowledge, skills, and abilities embedded in people that are critical to profitability and success. Technological and workforce trends have created a growing emphasis on managing human capital. And we also have globalization and competition. That refers to the tendency of firms to extend their sales, ownership, or manufacturing to new markets abroad. And globalization of a world economy and other trends have triggered changes in how companies organize, manage, and use their HR departments. So the rate of globalization continues to be high and has several strategic implications for companies. More globalization is going to mean what? It's going to mean more competition, and more competition means more pressure to lower costs. And that makes employees demand to be more productive and do better things and do them more efficiently and less expensively. We also have a lot of economic trends and challenges. All of these trends are happening within the context of economic upheaval. U.S. consumers actually spend more than they earn. I mean, come on. You know it and I know it. Credit card companies, right? The United States itself has become a debtor nation, really. The U.S. has had to borrow money to keep buying more from abroad than it sold. So, much of the economic boom was built on debt, which eventually ran its course. So, when we talk about economic and workforce projections, today economics trends are pointing up and hopefully will continue to do so. So we're still, coming back from that major catastrophe with the banks in 2007 to 2009. We're coming back, but we still have an unbalanced workforce, and we're still in a recovery period. So there's a lot of consequences for HR managers. HR management has evolved over the years, but again, being more involved in strategic planning. HR must lead the company's performance improvement efforts through structuring an efficient HR department. And I want you to be able to go into your chapter and look at these things like managing employee costs and working toward strategic results, which are essentially three areas: HR and performance management, HR and evidence-based management, and HR and adding value. HR performance and sustainability, HR and employment engagement, and HR and the manager's HR philosophy, HR and strategy, sustainability and strategic HR management, HR and human resource competencies. Even going back to the manager skills, talk about HR and manager skills. What about ethics? Ethics means the standard someone's used to decide what his or her conduct should be. HR has an important role in promoting ethical behavior at work. And we all know that over the years, ethics has been a real challenge in many companies. So the plan of this book overall is to, part one, is to give you an introduction to HR. Part two is going to look at staffing. That's workforce planning and employment. Part 3 is training and HR development. Part 4 is compensation total rewards. Part 5, employee and labor relations. And Part 6, special issues in HR. So it's kind of an overview of everything, but you could see what the objectives of the course are. Look at what I just talked about. Compare it to what you see in this video, and go to your book and learn. I'm also going to pop a few YouTube videos here in Module 1 for you to see, and it very much relates to a lot of the topics that I just talked about. So that is week 1, guys. I will see you on the 31st. Thank you.